how do you measure brand lift, brand awareness, brand performance? What are the KPIs there?
They were so light on that.
Of course they were. Yeah. It's just it's a hard question.
Literally no solution was offered aside from, well, maybe there's a couple of things, but they're just so highly esoteric that they just didn't even mention them. And that's what myself and our customer were looking at, because we were doing this strategy right now for them. And I leaned over to him. I was like, this is all great, but how are we going to measure it all? And he's like, I want to see that part of the show. Right. And they never got to it.
Well, I've got an answer for him. It's MER over time. It's media efficiency ratio expanded. Because if I'm going for, it's based on some assumptions, right? That increased brand awareness ultimately will increase ROI. That's more or less the assumption. And so if I was advertising last year and all other variables are the same, and I'm advertising this year and my brand awareness has gone up, in theory, then, other levers will have been improved. Click-through rate is better, conversion rate is better, customer take rate is better, retention is better because I have better brand awareness. And so I should be able to see the improvements, I guess, based on that comparison to that timeline. And it makes sense philosophically. Like if we were in school right now teaching marketing, that's an easy thing to put in a textbook. That feels like an impossible thing to sell. I don't know how to sell that. Like if I got a lead this morning and I have to hop on the call with this customer and I'm going to go sell them brand performance, I'm going to feel kind of silly.
Mm-hmm. It's a bit of a leap of faith when it comes to like when it comes right down to it. And the funny thing is that I don't know if you've read his book, but Byron Sharp was one of the speakers. Byron Sharp is this very, well-known best-selling author, wrote How Brands Grow. They're actually giving away his second iteration of that book at the conference, which was worth it unto itself, which is kind of cool. Just a really interesting dude from New Zealand. And he basically said he doesn't do anything like model mix marketing, which is sort of an esoteric way of tracking and making sure that everything is being done accurately. And I haven't seen a model where it works perfectly every single time. One of his takeaways is he said to a bunch of performance marketers, you don't need to measure everything. You can actually miss some stuff as long as you're keeping an eye on the big picture. Back to your philosophy on this, which I agree with, which is MER. So there is a certain leap of faith when it comes to brand. But here is the key takeaways and we'll throw in some stats here, is that you don't have to go from conversion ads. Like, let's say you're running conversion ads right now. And chances are, if you're listening to this show, most of your meta ads are website conversion ads. Great. Good place to start. That's where I would start. And you can optimize that. You can separate out your levels of traffic. You can go back to listen to 500 episodes of Perpetual Traffic. We talk about all this sort of stuff. Point is like, you don't have to start with, I need to start building brand and spending twice as much on brand awareness or reach campaigns. No. You do it in slow increments. You do it over time. So that when you do this, you start building up your own brand voice, but you're seeing not a huge decrease in the effectiveness of your conversion ads. So for example, like with a client of ours, we're doing this at $100 a day for not brand awareness, top of funnel ads. Like just, hey, get the brand out there, no call to action. All we're looking for is brand recall as our conversion action. We're doing this with consideration campaigns, which is sort of middle of funnel traffic campaigns, maybe a middle of funnel conversion with a website conversion objective for a lead, not necessarily a sale, or for reading a blog post, or for watching a video views. Like you can do it in increments. And we actually have a test running right now where we're testing 5 different top and middle of funnel campaigns and seeing which ones are the ones that have the most lift on the back end. For us at Tier 11, it is book scheduled calls. So, and those book scheduled calls through, the way in which we track, which gets pretty close to figuring out what works and what doesn't at the top of the funnel. It's not exact, but gets pretty damn close. We're starting to see lift overall just in leads, quality leads for our ideal customer profile. So, and that's how you sort of do it. You do it in small increments. And Byron Sharp, one of his big takeaways is don't do burst advertising. Don't just throw a bunch of ads out there and then stop. Just do it slowly and consistently over time and start building this over time, because what you'll start to see is not huge gains. And a lot of marketers, performance marketers especially, are looking for big gains immediately. Oh, I got a 3x ROI when I change this one thing in my campaign. Whatever that thing is, it's probably because you upped your creative. You did a lot of sort of things that we talk about here on the show. Maybe you started incorporating creator content that's actually really good, really speaks to your avatar's pain points, desires, whatever it happens to be, however your product solves that particular problem. But in most cases, you're just going to get incremental gains, and all those incremental gains start to add up and start to build your brand without you really even thinking that you're a brand advertiser. And so you can do it with just small campaigns and then grow them over time. And we've done this now. There's a case study that we have to talk about here on the show where we did it, where they were spending about $7,000 a month on brand sort of middle of funnel consideration campaigns. And over a 7-month period, they're now at $70,000 a month in spend and their Google spend in a really, really super competitive space is flat to down. And their cost per acquisition is down by 50%. So stay tuned for that episode, because that's going to be one I think you're definitely going to want to listen to, where we're applying all this. Well, what I'm trying to do right now is just sort of shift your mindset. And yeah, we've gotten some comments from some people saying stop talking about the bloody red ocean of website conversion campaigns and high intent keywords. Bullshit. You know what? Screw that guy. Because the point is you should be talking about this, because that's where everything's going. CPMs in those spaces are not getting any cheaper.
Yeah, it's not going to get better.
You can offset it with this. What we're seeing now is when we start to blend in consideration and awareness campaigns, our overall CPMs are decreasing because we have less reliance on the areas where there's more competition. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Yeah, and you said it earlier, but there's a leap of faith required, because you have to commit a longer period of time than you'd be able to attribute conversions to anyway.
Right.
We're used to saying, in the standard narrative in the very beginning, it was 30 days. Now it's 90 days. I'm sure it's going to get longer than that for conversion marketers. But you have to wipe your slate there a little bit and not think in those 90-day epochs, because that's not what this is at all. Which, in a really interesting way, man, you have to be so confident in your core assumptions. Yeah. You have to be really confident in what you're offering. You have to be really confident in who you're targeting. You have to be really confident in your messaging. Like this, peels all the way back. It's funny because before the show we were talking about Mad Men. This is Don Draper stuff, man. You just have to feel really confident about your approach, because you're going to be putting a ton of weight, a ton of money, and a ton of time behind that approach without any formal indications of success.
We're going to dive right in. And the topic for today, the discussion topic, is going to be MER, Media Efficiency Ratio. And what MER is, Media Efficiency Ratio, is, think of it like company ROAS. So all cash spend out on paid media versus all revenue in.